At my niece's 6th birthday party, I found a $3,842.40 charge on my card. My sister said, "We voted. You're paying for it." My parents backed her. That night, I canceled Mom's card, cut all payments, and filed a dispute with the bank. A year later, they came back demanding. The text alert came through while I was helping Madison blow out her candles. My phone buzzed against my hip, and I almost ignored it. Almost. But something made me glance down at the screen, and the number I saw made my stomach drop through the floor of the community center my sister had rented. $3,842.40. I stared at the notification, certain there had been some mistake. That was more than my monthly rent. The charge was listed as coming from Premier Party Productions, LLC, and it had hit my credit card exactly 17 minutes ago. "Aunt Tiana, did you see me blow them all out?" Madison's chocolate-smeared face beamed up at me, her gap-toothed smile so innocent and pure that my heart clenched. "I did, sweetheart. You were amazing." I managed to keep my voice steady, even as my hands started shaking. I excused myself and headed toward the bathroom, my sister's voice calling after me about cutting the cake soon. The bathroom was decorated with streaming pink and purple ribbons, matching the princess theme my sister Courtney had chosen. I locked myself in a stall and pulled up my banking app with trembling fingers. The charge was real, very real. And below it, I could see the merchant description now that I had the full details. Princess character appearances, petting, zoo rental, custom cake from some high-end bakery balloon arch installation, and something called a premium entertainment package. I hadn't authorized any of this. I agreed to come to my niece's birthday party. I'd even bought her a thoughtful gift, a collection of science experiment kits, because Madison loved mixing things together. But I certainly hadn't agreed to fund what looked like a wedding reception for a 6-year-old. My phone rang. It was my bank's fraud department. "Miss Patterson, we're calling about some unusual activity on your card ending in 4739. "Yes, I'm looking at it right now. I didn't make this purchase." We flagged it for review. The merchant charged the card on file for event services. "Do you want to dispute this transaction?" "Hold on. I needed to understand what had happened before I made any moves. Let me call you back in 15 minutes. I emerged from the bathroom on unsteady legs. The party was in full swing. A woman dressed as a Disney princess was leading a group of children in some kind of song. In the corner, I could see a small petting zoo, set up with a pony, 2 goats, and several rabbits. The cake, a massive 3-tiered monstrosity, covered in edible glitter, sat on a table that looked like it had been draped in custom linens. Courtney spotted me and rushed over, her face flushed with excitement. "Isn't this incredible? Madison is having the time of her life." "Courtney, did you charge something to my credit card?" Her expression didn't even flicker. "Oh, right. Yeah, we took a vote." "You took a what?" "A family vote last week at dinner. You weren't there because you were working late, remember? We all agreed that since you don't have kids and you make decent money at that tech company, you should cover Madison's party this year. Mom and Dad voted yes. Brian voted yes. That was her husband, and I obviously voted yes. So that's 5 votes to 0. Democracy in action." She said it with a bright smile, like she'd just explained the most reasonable thing in the world. I felt like I'd been slapped. "You voted to spend almost $4,000 of my money without asking me. We're family, Tiana. Family helps each other. Besides, you got that big promotion 6 months ago. Mom told me you're making 6 figures now. That doesn't give you the right. Tiana Madison." Courtney's attention snapped away from me as she called to her daughter. "Baby, come here. The pony is ready for your special ride." She walked away just like that, as if we hadn't been having a conversation about her stealing thousands of dollars from me. I stood there frozen in the middle of the chaos. Children screamed with laughter around me. Parents I didn't know snapped photos. The princess character was singing about dreams coming true, and all I could think about was how my family had gathered around the dinner table and casually decided to rob me. I found my mother by the gift table arranging presents into some kind of display. "Mom, did you know about this? About Courtney charging my card?" She didn't even look up from her organizing. "Oh, honey, don't make a scene. It's Madison's special day." That's not an answer. She sighed, the same long-suffering sigh she'd used my entire childhood whenever I questioned anything. "Courtney works so hard as a stay-at-home mom. Brian's job at the dealership doesn't pay what it used to. You have plenty of money and no responsibilities. It's only fair that you contribute to your niece's happiness." "Contribute? I bought her a gift. I didn't agree to fund this circus." "Lower your voice." Mom's eyes finally met mine, hard and cold. "You're being selfish, Tiana. This is what families do." We support each other. When you were Madison's age, your father and I sacrificed plenty to give you nice birthdays. You're comparing normal birthday parties to a $4,000 production. Times have changed. Children expect more these days. Madison's friends all have parties like this. Courtney didn't want her daughter to feel less than. My father appeared at my mother's elbow, his expression already set in that disappointed look I knew so well. What's going on? Your daughter is upset that she had to help with her niece's party, Mom said, her tone dripping with implication. Tiana, Dad's voice carried that warning note. Your sister needed help. Family helps family. That's how we were raised. You voted to spend my money without my permission. We made a family decision. You're part of this family. Whether you like it or not, the money is already spent. The party is happening. You can either be gracious about it, or you can sulk in the corner like you used to do when you were a teenager. The dismissal in his voice was complete. Both my parents turned back to their tasks, my mother adjusting ribbons and my father checking his phone. The conversation, as far as they were concerned, was over. I walked outside. The community center had a small patio area with a few benches, and I sank onto one, my entire body shaking with rage and disbelief. I called my bank back. I want to dispute that charge. I didn't authorize it, and I want my money back. The representative walked me through the process. I explained that my card had been used without my permission. Yes, I knew who had used it. No, I hadn't given them authorization. Yes, I wanted to pursue this formally. The investigation will take a few weeks, but we'll issue you a provisional credit within 7 business days, she told me. Thank you. I hung up and sat there as the sun started to set through the windows. I could see the party continuing. Courtney was laughing with Brian. My parents were taking photos with Madison. Everyone looked so happy, so content, so completely unbothered by what they'd done to me. Something crystallized in my chest. Something cold and sharp and final. I pulled up my account management. 3 years ago, when my mother had been complaining about the hassle of managing bills, I'd added her as an authorized user on one of my credit cards. It was supposed to be for emergencies. She used it maybe twice a year, always for small things, always asking first. I removed her as an authorized user with 3 taps. Next, I went through my automatic payments. I'd been covering my parents' cell phone bill for the past 2 years. Dad had lost his job during the pandemic, and I'd stepped in to help. $240 a month. Canceled. I'd been paying for their premium cable and internet package. $160 a month. Canceled. I'd set up automatic payments for Courtney's gym membership last year after she complained about not being able to afford self-care as a mom. $89 a month. Canceled. I went through every subscription, every auto payment, every little way I'd been helping my family over the years. All of it gone with a few clicks. My hands were steady now. I felt calm, eerily calm. I went back inside for one last thing. Madison was opening presents surrounded by her friends and their parents. I waited until she got to mine. Her face lit up when she saw the science kits, and she actually abandoned the pile of other gifts to hug me. Thank you, Aunt Tiana. These are so cool. Happy birthday, sweetheart. I kissed the top of her head, breathing in her little kid smell of sugar and innocence. I didn't say goodbye to anyone else. I just left. The next morning, Courtney called me 7 times before I answered. What did you do? Her voice was shrill. Mom's card isn't working. She tried to buy groceries and it was declined. I removed her as an authorized user. You can't do that. I can, and I did. Just like you can't charge almost $4,000 to my card without permission, but you did anyway. We explained this. We voted. You don't get to vote on spending my money, Courtney. That's not how anything works. That's called theft. I'm your sister, and I'm filing a police report this afternoon if my bank dispute doesn't go through. Silence on the other end. Then you wouldn't watch me. I hung up. She called back immediately. I declined the call. She texted. Mom and Dad are furious. I blocked her number. My mother called from Dad's phone an hour later. Tiana Marie Patterson. What is the meaning of this? Our phone service is shut off. The cable isn't working. I stopped paying for things that aren't my responsibility. How dare you after everything we've done for you? Like voting to steal from me. We didn't steal. We made a family decision. You're being incredibly childish and vindictive. I'm being childish. You all ganged up on me and decided I should fund a party that costs more than some people's monthly salary. And I'm the child. You have the money. That's not the point, Mom. Then what is the point? That you're too selfish to help your own family. The point is that you don't get to take my money without asking. The point is that family doesn't mean I'm your personal ATM. The point is that I'm done being treated like my only value is my paycheck. You're making a huge mistake, Tiana. The only mistake I made was thinking any of you actually respected me. I hung up on her too. The next few days were quiet, eerily quiet. No calls, no texts. I went to work, came home, lived my life. The silence from my family should have felt peaceful, but instead it felt like the eye of a hurricane. The bank investigation moved forward. Because I'd reported the unauthorized charge promptly and had clear evidence that I hadn't consented to the transaction, they ruled in my favor. The provisional credit became permanent. Courtney had to pay back Premier Party Productions herself. I heard about the fallout through my cousin Rachel, who called me 3 weeks after the party. Holy hell, Tiana. What happened at Linda is telling everyone you had a breakdown and abandoned the family. That's one way to spin it, I guess. Rachel laughed. She's not getting any sympathy from me. Mom told me about the vote thing. That's insane. Your mom knows. Everyone knows. Aunt Linda won't shut up about it. She's calling you ungrateful and selfish at every family gathering. But between you and me, half the family thinks what Courtney did was unhinged. $4,000 for a 6-year-old's birthday party and charging it to your card without asking. That's identity theft, Tiana. That's what I tried to tell them. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. They've been taking advantage of you for years. That conversation was a small comfort, but it didn't change the reality. My parents didn't speak to me. Courtney certainly didn't. The few texts I got from extended family were split between support and accusations that I was tearing the family apart. I focused on my work. I'd been leading a major project at my tech company, developing a new data analytics platform for healthcare providers. I threw myself into it, working late nights, volunteering for extra responsibilities. My boss noticed. Tiana, you're doing incredible work, but you're here until 8 or 9 every night. Everything okay? Just dedicated to the project, I told her. Sarah, my boss, studied me with concern. It's excellent dedication, but don't burn yourself out. We need you healthy and sustainable, not running on fumes. I appreciated her concern, but work was the only place where I felt valued for something other than my bank account. At the office, my contributions mattered because of my skills, my ideas, my effort, not because of what I could financially provide. 3 months passed, then 6. I celebrated my 29th birthday, alone, ordering Thai food and watching movies. I didn't hear from my family. I told myself I didn't care. Rachel invited me to her wedding planning sessions, and through her, I maintained a thread of connection to the family gossip. Apparently, my parents had to scale back their lifestyle significantly without my financial support. They'd had to downgrade their cable package and switch to a cheaper cell phone plan. Dad had complained about it at every opportunity. Courtney, meanwhile, was dealing with the debt from the party. Premier Party Productions had sent the charges to collections when she couldn't pay them back. After the bank reversed the charge, her credit score took a hit. She's telling everyone it's your fault, Rachel informed me over coffee one Saturday. Says you ruined her financially out of spite. She ruined herself by spending money she didn't have. Preaching to the choir cousin. The holidays came and went. I spent Thanksgiving with friends from work and Christmas at Rachel's house with her side of the family. It was strange, but not unpleasant. I'd expected to feel a gaping hole where my parents and sister should have been. Instead, I felt lighter, free. I got another promotion at work in January, leading to a significant raise. I moved to a nicer apartment, one with a view of the city skyline. I started dating someone I met through a professional networking event. Marcus, a software engineer with kind eyes and a dry sense of humor. Life moved forward. Then, almost exactly a year after Madison's 6th birthday party, my mother called. I stared at my phone, her name lighting up the screen. I hadn't blocked my parents' numbers, though I sometimes wondered why. Maybe part of me had hoped they'd eventually apologize. I answered. Hello, Tiana. Mom's voice sounded strained. We need to talk. About what? Can you come over to the house tomorrow? We need to discuss something important. It's about your father. My stomach clenched. Is he sick? Just come over. 2 o'clock. She hung up before I could respond. I sat there holding my phone, anxiety crawling up my spine. Despite everything, the thought of my father being seriously ill terrified me. I might be angry at my parents, but I didn't want them to suffer. The next day I drove to my childhood home. The neighborhood looked the same as always. Modest houses with neat lawns, the playground where Courtney and I used to swing the corner store, where we'd buy candy with our allowance. Mom answered the door. She looked older than I remembered, more tired. She didn't hug me. Come in. The house felt smaller than my memories. I followed her to the living room, where Dad sat in his recliner and Courtney perched on the couch. All 3 of them stared at me as I walked in. Is someone going to tell me what's going on? You said Dad was sick. I never said he was sick, Mom corrected. I said we needed to talk about him. The anger returned hot and immediate. So you lied to get me here. Sit down, Tiana. I'd rather stand. Dad cleared his throat. Your mother and I are struggling financially. I haven't been able to find steady work since the layoffs. We're behind on the mortgage. The bank sent a foreclosure notice. My heart sank, but I kept my expression neutral. I'm sorry to hear that. We need your help, Mom said. We need you to start covering the bills again, and we need about $15,000 to get caught up on the mortgage. There it was. Not an apology. Not an acknowledgement of what they'd done. Just a demand for money. Absolutely not. Courtney shot to her feet. See, I told you she'd be selfish about this. You have some nerve calling me selfish after what you did. That was over a year ago. Let it go already. Let it go. You stole from me, Courtney. You committed fraud, and none of you have ever apologized. We made a family decision. Dad said, his voice hard. You're the one who decided to throw a tantrum and cut off your own parents. I didn't cut you off. I stopped paying for things that were never my responsibility in the first place. Mom's eyes filled with tears. We're going to lose the house, Tiana. Your childhood home. Doesn't that mean anything to you? Of course it means something to me. But your financial problems aren't my responsibility. You're my parents, and you treated me like an ATM. You didn't ask, you didn't discuss, you took a vote and decided my money was yours to spend. That's not how parents treat their children. We raised you, Dad said. We fed you, clothed, you put a roof over your head for 18 years. You owe us. The words hit me like a physical blow. I owe you for doing the bare minimum that parents are supposed to do. Don't you dare speak to your father that way, Mom snapped. Why did you even have children if you were just going to keep a running tab of everything you spent on us? Courtney jumped back in. This is ridiculous. I need help too. That collections thing tanked my credit score. Brian and I want to buy a house, but we can't get approved for a mortgage now. You could fix this, Tiana. You could pay off that debt, help Mom and Dad with their mortgage, and this would all go away. And what would I get in return? Your family back, Mom said softly. I looked at the three of them. My parents aged and desperate. My sister entitled and delusional. The people who were supposed to love me unconditionally but only seemed to value me when I was useful. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice calm and clear. Nothing. I'm not giving you money. I'm not paying your bills. I'm not rescuing you from the consequences of your own choices. Tiana, I'm not finished. You want to know why? It's not because I'm selfish or holding a grudge. It's because giving you money wouldn't actually fix anything. In 6 months or a year, you'd be right back here asking for more. Because the fundamental problem isn't money. It's that you don't respect me. That's not true, Mom protested. Really? Then explain to me why in the entire year since the party incident, not one of you has called to apologize. Not one of you has acknowledged that what Courtney did was wrong. You're only here now because you need something from me. We thought you needed time to cool off, Dad said. Cool off. You thought giving me the silent treatment for a year was appropriate. You're the one who cut us off, Courtney shouted. No, I stopped allowing you to use me. There's a difference. Mom's tears were flowing freely now. Please, Tiana, we're begging you. We're family. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't vote on how to spend someone else's money. Family doesn't demand financial support and then ghost you when you set boundaries. I turned toward the door. If you walk out that door, you're not welcome back, Dad said. I paused my hand on the doorknob. You know what, I think I'm okay with that. You'll regret this, Courtney called after me. I walked to my car without looking back. My hands shook as I started the engine, but I made it 3 blocks before I had to pull over. Tears poured down my face. Not sad tears exactly, but something more complicated. Grief for what I'd never had. Relief that I'd stood my ground. Anger that it had come to this. My phone rang. It was Rachel. Hey, I heard Mom ambushed you into visiting. You okay? How did you know about that? Aunt Linda called my mom last night, bragging about how they were going to make you see reason. I tried to warn you, but I didn't have your new number. They wanted money, about $15,000 plus regular bill payments. Rachel let out a low whistle. And you said no. I said no. Good, I'm proud of you, Tiana. Those words broke something open in me. When was the last time someone in my family had said they were proud of me? Not proud of my paycheck or my ability to solve their problems, but proud of me as a person? Thanks, Rachel. Listen, I know this is hard, but you're doing the right thing. They've been using you for years, and it's time someone stood up to them. We talked for another hour. She caught me up on family drama I'd missed. Apparently, my parents had been telling everyone I'd abandoned them in their time of need, painting themselves as victims of an ungrateful daughter. But Rachel's mom, my Aunt Patricia, had apparently set the record straight at the last family gathering, loudly announcing that if someone stole her credit card information and charged thousands of dollars without permission, she'd press charges, family or not. There's been a divide forming, Rachel explained. The older generation mostly sides with your parents because family is family. But everyone our age, we think you're a hero. Aunt Linda's tactics have been getting more transparent and people are noticing. What kind of tactics? Showing up to events talking about their financial struggles, posting vague Facebook statuses about ungrateful children, sighing dramatically whenever someone mentions you. It's like a guilt trip tour. That sounds exhausting. It is for them, I think, because it's not working the way they thought it would. After we hung up, I drove to Marcus's apartment. He took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. Family ambush, he guessed. We'd been dating for 5 months, and I told him the whole story. They wanted $15,000. Let me guess. No apology, just demands. Exactly. He made me tea and listened while I recounted the entire conversation. Marcus had his own complicated family history. His parents had divorced when he was young, and he'd spent years navigating their drama, so he understood in a way my friends from work couldn't. You know what the hardest part is, I said. Some piece of me wanted to give them the money. Not because they deserve it, but because it would be easier than this. Easier in the short term, Marcus agreed. But in the long term, you'd be right back where you started. Exactly. We spent the evening cooking dinner together and watching terrible reality TV, his hand warm in mine. This was what support looked like, I realized. Not someone solving my problems for me or telling me what to do, but someone standing beside me while I figured it out myself. The next week, I got a letter from my parents' attorney. My hands shook as I opened it. The letter was surprisingly short. It informed me that my parents were pursuing legal action to compel me to provide financial support. They were citing a filial responsibility law that apparently existed in our state. I immediately called a lawyer. Patricia Chen's office was modern and sleek, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. She listened to my story without interrupting, occasionally making notes on her tablet. Okay, she said when I finished. First, the good news. Filial responsibility laws do exist in our state, but they're rarely enforced and have very specific criteria. The parent must be indigent, meaning truly unable to care for themselves, and the child must have the means to help. Even then, courts are extremely reluctant to force adult children to support their parents. What's the bad news? The bad news is that this will be stressful and potentially expensive to defend against, even though they're very unlikely to win. Your parents' lawyer is probably counting on you settling to avoid court. What would a settlement look like? They'd probably propose you pay some portion of what they're asking, maybe $5,000 or $10,000, and sign an agreement to provide ongoing support. And if I don't settle, then we fight it in court. Based on what you've told me, we have an excellent case. Your parents aren't indigent. Your father chooses not to work at jobs he considers beneath him, which is different from being unable to work. They have assets they could liquidate. And the triggering incident here was fraud on their part. No judge is going to look kindly on parents who stole from their daughter and are now demanding she support them. How much will this cost me? She quoted a retainer fee that made me wince, but I could afford it. I hired her on the spot. The lawsuit moved slowly through the system. Meanwhile, my parents ramped up their campaign. They showed up at my apartment building one evening, causing a scene in the lobby until security asked them to leave. They started calling my office, trying to reach me at work. My boss, Sarah, called me into her office after the third call in a week. Tiana, I need to ask you something, and I want you to know this isn't a judgment. Are you safe? The calls we've been getting, they sound urgent. I explained the situation as professionally as I could. Sarah listened with growing concern. I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. I'm going to have reception block their numbers, and if they show up here, security will escort them out. Your personal life is your personal life, and you shouldn't have to deal with harassment at work. Thank you. Also, and I probably shouldn't tell you this, but HR has been really impressed with how you've handled the increased pressure. Most people would be falling apart, but your work quality hasn't slipped at all. There might be a VP position opening up in the next quarter, and your name is at the top of the list. I left her office feeling surreal. My family was suing me, and I was getting promoted. The preliminary hearing happened on a Tuesday in March. Patricia had advised me that this was just procedural. The judge would hear both sides and decide if there was enough merit to proceed to trial. My parents arrived with their lawyer, a tired-looking man in an ill-fitting suit. I sat on the opposite side of the courtroom with Patricia, who looked sharp and confident in a navy suit. The judge, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes, listened to both sides present their arguments. My parents' lawyer argued that they had raised me, provided for me, and now in their time of need, I had abandoned them. He painted a picture of elderly, struggling parents being cast aside by their wealthy, ungrateful daughter. Patricia stood up and calmly dismantled every argument. She presented evidence of my parents' assets, including their house and my father's pension. She showed documentation of my father turning down multiple job opportunities. And then she dropped the bomb, the police report I'd filed about the unauthorized credit card charge. Your Honor, the plaintiffs are asking this court to compel Miss Patterson to provide financial support, but the triggering incident that led to this arrangement was the plaintiff's daughter, Miss Patterson's sister, committing credit card fraud against Miss Patterson to the tune of nearly $4,000 with the full knowledge and approval of the plaintiffs. They then demanded Miss Patterson accept this theft as a family decision. When she refused and stopped voluntarily providing financial assistance, they retaliated with a year of silence, only reaching out when they wanted money again. The judge's expression grew stern. She looked at my parents' lawyer. Is this true? Did your clients approve of their other daughter using Miss Patterson's credit card without permission? The lawyer shuffled his papers. Your Honor, it was a family matter, a misunderstanding. It's a yes or no question, Counselor. They believe there was an understanding that Miss Patterson would cover family expenses. Based on what the judge asked. A vote that Miss Patterson wasn't present for. She looked down at the paperwork in front of her. I'm dismissing this case. Filial responsibility laws exist to prevent elderly parents from becoming destitute when they have adult children with means. They do not exist to enable financial abuse or to force adult children to subsidize their parents' chosen lifestyle. If the plaintiffs find themselves in genuine need, they have multiple options: employment, selling assets, or applying for state assistance. Compelling their daughter to support them is not one of those options, particularly given the circumstances that led to this arrangement. She banged her gavel. Case dismissed. I walked out of that courtroom feeling like I could float. Patricia was grinning. That went even better than I expected. Judge Morrison does not have patience for this kind of nonsense. My parents stood in the hallway with their lawyer, who was speaking to them in low, urgent tones. My mother's face was red and blotchy. My father looked furious. Courtney was there too. I hadn't noticed her in the courtroom. She marched up to me. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed this family. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped letting you take advantage of me. They're going to lose the house. Then maybe they should sell it and downsize. Or maybe Dad should actually accept one of those jobs he keeps turning down. You're heartless. No, I'm done. There's a difference. I walked away. Patricia followed, and we didn't look back. 3 months later, I heard through Rachel that my parents had sold the house. They'd moved into a smaller condo and were managing their expenses. Dad had finally accepted a position at a local hardware store. It wasn't glamorous, but it was income. Courtney and Brian had declared bankruptcy to deal with their debts. Rachel mentioned it casually during one of our monthly dinners. I almost feel bad for them, Rachel said. But then I remember the audacity of charging $4,000 to someone else's card and expecting them to just accept it. How's Madison doing, I asked. Despite everything, I missed my niece. She's good. She's 7 now. Really into soccer. She asks about you sometimes. That hurt more than I expected. What does Courtney tell her? That Aunt Tiana is very busy with work. To her credit, Courtney hasn't poisoned Madison against you. I think she knows that would backfire eventually. I miss her. Maybe when she's older, you can have a relationship with her directly. 18 isn't that far away. 11 years felt like forever, but Rachel had a point. My life continued to improve. I got the VP position at work, complete with a significant salary increase and equity. Marcus and I moved in together, finding a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment with enough space for both of us to work from home when needed. I started volunteering at a financial literacy nonprofit teaching young adults about budgeting and protecting themselves from financial abuse. It was during one of these workshops that I realized how much I'd grown. A young woman, barely 20, raised her hand during the Q&A. What do you do if your family expects you to pay for everything because you have a good job? I took a breath. You set boundaries. You remember that having money doesn't mean people are entitled to it. You understand that real love doesn't come with a price tag. After the workshop, she came up to me. Thank you. My mom keeps asking me to cover her rent, and I feel so guilty saying no. The guilt is normal, I told her. But paying her rent won't fix whatever's broken. It'll just enable the same patterns to continue. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Everyone says I'm selfish. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always call you selfish when you finally set them. She hugged me, and I felt something settle into place. My pain had a purpose. My experience could help someone else avoid the same traps. 2 years after Madison's 6th birthday party, I was invited to Rachel's wedding. It was a small affair, intimate and lovely. I knew some of my extended family would be there, including possibly my parents. Marcus and I discussed it the night before. Are you ready for this? He asked. I don't know. Part of me wants to see them to know they're okay, but another part of me wants to stay as far away as possible. You don't owe them anything, Tiana. Not your presence, not your forgiveness, nothing. I know. We showed up to the wedding, and I spotted my parents almost immediately. They'd aged noticeably. Mom's hair had gone completely gray. Dad moved stiffly like his joints hurt. They saw me too. For a moment, we just stared at each other across the room. Then my mother turned away. It stung, but I'd expected it. I focused on Rachel celebrating her happiness. She looked radiant in a simple white dress, laughing with her new spouse. During the reception, Madison found me. She was 8 now, taller and more self-assured. Aunt Tiana. She hugged me tightly. I haven't seen you in forever. Hey, sweetheart, look how big you've gotten. Mom said you've been really busy with work. I have been, but that's not a good excuse for not staying in touch. She looked at me seriously. Are you and Mom fighting? Kids were so much more perceptive than adults gave them credit for. We had a disagreement a while ago. Yeah, about money. I blinked. What makes you say that? I heard Grandma talking to Mom about it. She said you cared more about money than family. Madison's expression was thoughtful. But that didn't sound like you. You gave me those science kits for my birthday that one year, remember? And you always asked about my experiments, not about grades or anything. That's not someone who only cares about money. My throat tightened. You're a smart kid, Madison. I'm sorry you and Mom fight. Me too, honey. She hugged me again and ran off to dance with her friends. I watched her go, feeling the weight of everything I'd lost and everything I'd gained. Later that night, after Marcus and I had returned home, I sat on our balcony, looking out at the city lights. Do you regret it? Marcus asked, joining me with 2 glasses of wine. Regret what? Setting boundaries, cutting them off. I thought about it carefully. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that my family valued my wallet more than my well-being. I regret that my niece is growing up watching dysfunctional patterns. But do I regret standing up for myself? No, never. Good. He kissed the top of my head. Because watching you come into your own these past 2 years has been incredible. We sat in comfortable silence, and I realized something. I was happy, genuinely happy. Not the conditional happiness of keeping the peace or meeting expectations, but the deep contentment of living authentically. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Courtney. Madison told me she saw you at the wedding. She misses you. I know we can't fix what happened, but maybe eventually we could try for her sake. No pressure, just think about it. I showed Marcus the text. What are you going to do? He asked. I'm going to think about it like she said. No promises, no rushing, just possibility. That seems fair. I didn't respond to the text that night or the next day. I let it sit while I processed what I wanted, what I was willing to risk, what boundaries would need to exist. A week later, I replied, I'd be open to coffee, just you and me. Before we involve Madison, we have a lot to talk about. Her response came quickly. Okay, how about Saturday? Saturday arrived. I met Courtney at a neutral coffee shop. Neither of us on home territory. She looked tired, older. Motherhood and financial stress had left their marks. We ordered our drinks and sat down. The silence stretched between us. Finally, Courtney spoke. I'm not going to apologize for the party. My stomach sank. Then we have nothing to talk about. Wait, let me finish. She took a shaky breath. I'm not going to apologize because I don't know how to apologize for something that big. I don't even know where to start. What I did was theft. It was betrayal. It was so far over the line that I can't even see the line anymore. And I've spent 2 years trying to justify it to myself, trying to convince myself that you were just being dramatic. I waited. But Madison's getting older, and she's starting to ask questions. And I realize I don't want to teach her that what I did was okay because it wasn't. It was unforgivable. I said nothing. But I'm asking you to forgive me anyway, she continued. Not for my sake, for Madison's. She deserves to have an aunt who sees her as more than collateral damage in a family war. This wasn't a war I started. I know. Tears rolled down her face. I know it wasn't. We ambushed you. We used you. We took advantage of your success and your generosity. And when you finally stood up for yourself, we punished you for it. Why? The question burst out of me. Why did you think that was okay? Courtney wiped her eyes. Because Mom and Dad always talked about you like you owed us something. Like your success was somehow unfair because I stayed home with Madison and didn't have a career. They made me feel entitled to your money because you had it and I didn't. And I bought into it. I convinced myself that family meant you should share everything, including your bank account. That's not what family means. I know that now. She laughed bitterly. Bankruptcy is a hell of a teacher. Losing everything, having to start over watching Brian work 2 jobs while I sold everything we owned just to keep a roof over our heads. It gave me perspective the hard way. I'm sorry you went through that, I said carefully. But it wasn't my responsibility to prevent it. I know. And I'm not asking you to fix it or make it better. I'm just asking if maybe eventually we could find a way forward for Madison. She's asking to do science experiments with Aunt Tiana, and I don't know what to tell her. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. The entitlement was gone, replaced by exhaustion and something that might have been humility. What about Mom and Dad? I asked. They won't apologize. Ever. They're still telling everyone you abandoned us. But Brian and I have set boundaries with them, too. They don't get to complain about our finances or tell us how to run our lives. It's made family dinners awkward, but it's better than the alternative, which is ending up like them. Bitter and broken, blaming everyone else for choices we made. We talked for 2 more hours. It wasn't easy. There were tears and raised voices and moments when I almost walked out, but we pushed through. By the end, we'd established ground rules. No discussions of money, no guilt trips, no involving Madison in adult conflicts. If we were going to rebuild anything, it had to be on a foundation of respect, not obligation. I can't promise we'll ever be close again, I told her. Too much has happened. I know, but maybe we can be civil. Maybe Madison can have an aunt who teaches her about science and supports her dreams. Maybe that's enough. Maybe it is. We didn't hug goodbye. We weren't there yet. But we shook hands, and that felt like something. Over the next 6 months, I saw Madison once a month. We did science experiments in my apartment, volcanoes and crystal growing and simple circuits. She was brilliant and curious, asking questions that made me think. I never asked about Courtney's finances or my parents. Madison never mentioned them either. Slowly, carefully, Courtney and I built something new. Not the relationship we'd had before. That was gone forever. But something more honest. We'd never be best friends, but we could be sisters who respected each other's boundaries. My parents, I heard through Rachel, eventually stopped talking about me at family events. The story had gotten old, and people had stopped sympathizing. They lived their smaller life in their smaller condo, and I lived mine. 3 years after the party, Marcus proposed. We planned a small wedding, just close friends and selected family. I invited Rachel and her spouse. I invited Madison and Courtney and Brian. I didn't invite my parents. Courtney called me when she got the invitation. Mom and Dad aren't invited. No, that's going to hurt them. They hurt me first, and they've never apologized. Silence. Okay, she said finally. I understand. The wedding was perfect. Small and intimate and filled with people who loved me for who I was, not what I could provide. Madison was my junior bridesmaid, beaming in her purple dress. During the reception, Courtney pulled me aside. Thank you for including Madison in this. It means the world to her. She's a great kid. You're doing a good job with her. I'm trying. I don't want her to grow up thinking people are commodities. Then you're already ahead of where we started. We hugged briefly, a little awkwardly, but genuinely. Later, as Marcus and I danced our first dance as a married couple, I looked around at the people celebrating with us. My chosen family built from friends and the relatives who had proven themselves worthy of trust. This was what I'd gained by standing up for myself, a life built on respect rather than obligation, relationships based on genuine care rather than financial utility, and the knowledge that I was worth more than my bank account. It had cost me almost everything, but what I built in its place was priceless.